Hello. Today I'm going to talk about my book, Are You Racist? Root Causes of Racism That Nobody Talks About. I'm going to explain the chapters. First, we have the introduction, like every other book. But chapter one is called The Creation of a Racist Mind. Um, in this chapter, I'm talking about how children, especially, grow up in homes where um, they become they develop a racist mind, really, a racist attitude and racist feelings and racist beliefs. But the most important part of it is that I touch on how come sometimes children grow up in homes where the home is very PC, the home is very sometimes very loving and very normal and very anti-racist, but still these children turn out to be racist, very racist adults. And I'm not going to call them racist adults or not racist adults because another premise of the book, especially in the next chapter, is explaining that and why all human beings are racist without any exception. We all are racist, we all have racist thoughts, and it's not possible to not be racist in a world like this. But chapter one is I tell a story about a boy named Jesse, how Jesse grew up in a home where his parents were respected people. The whole book does not tell a story, by the way. The whole book is not about the story that I'm telling in this chapter one is is just a illustration of how things turn out sometimes. But it's the whole book is not about telling stories of people of any particular people or any subjective family or whatever. It's just this chapter, and it's fictional, by the way. It's a general story of the boy named Jesse. His parents are respectable people, respected people, and he grew up in a PC home. Still, he turned out to be racist. In the book, I explain how that came to be, because sometimes we are training our children to become not racist and they turn out racist, which they would have turned out racist anyway, whether we train them or not, because that's the society we live in. But I'm showing people how training people to not be racist does not make them not racist. In fact, makes them racist instead. Because whenever you're training somebody or telling somebody that you should like this or you shouldn't hate this or you should discriminate, they their minds start to understand this as um, if I'm being told not to like this thing, then there's something about this thing that's not likable. Otherwise, you would not be telling me not to telling me to like it or telling me not like it. So that's chapter one, and it at the ending of the chapter one, it's I go on to show you how pretty much we were all like Jesse. We all have a Jesse inside of us. Chapter two is called "What is Racism." Really, chapter two is explaining um, what is racism. Racism mean different things to different people. Racism um, is uh, it's a system, and it's like a collective human thing. It's also talking about who are the real racists of society, who can be racist, which I already explained in many of my videos and my content. And we all are racist. All human beings are racist. Um, in Another topic in chapter one is how could Black people be racist um, if they have no power or whatever. I want to make a separate video. I'm working on a video right now about this topic, but my trauma gets in the way, and and it kills me. But I'm working on a video right now on this topic, pretty much showing you how Black people are racist just like everyone, the psychology behind it, and the social, political dynamic of why, and the psychology behind why, whether Black people are in a position of power or no power, how come they're still racist? Because they say racism is prejudice plus power, and I disagree with that. In fact, even if that was the case, Black people still try to garner power in different ways. Black people still try to, because once you assume a powerless position, you are going to simultaneously reach for power. You're going to try to garner power in some way. So, in some way, some subtle, hidden ways, Black people still try to gain power and try to get some level of power over white people. And in that video, I want to show you how that is the case, because I don't think I didn't go into all that details in the book itself, but I want to go into the details in the video of how, hopefully I remember to write that in the video, how Black people try to garner power, and whether it's political power, mass power, general absolute power. Power is power. Okay, and once you in a overt position of power, or you try to manipulate your way to get power, it's still power you're trying to get. And everybody have the prejudice, everybody have the bias, plus the power equals racism. Now, I'm not one of these advocates for racism is defined by the power you have plus prejudice. This is what people say. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to show you now that if that's the case, Black people still try to put themselves in certain, manipulate their way to get power. Okay. Um, it talks about stereotypes and how stereotypes play into racism, and it also go into some details about if stereotypes are not the crux of racism. It's not the root of what, like people sitting back and stereotyping Black people, for example, is not the total thing of why Black people are hated. It's not because of the stereotypes within themselves. It's because of the way people view stereotypes in relation to the self. Okay. In other words, if I'm looking out there, if I'm stereotyping white people, and I don't like certain things because of white people, it just doesn't stop there. It's because there's certain things I see in white people that is triggering some kind of a insecurity, some pain, some hurt inside of me that I've internalized. And when I see white people, I judge them a certain way because of that. It's because of fear, something I see inside of them that I hate about myself, or is a reflection of the things I hate about myself, and that's why the stereotype might cause me to um, to have some kind of a hatred or resentment towards white people as far as stereotypes. Now, that was chapter. There's other topics in chapter 1, chapter 2 rather, but chapter 3 is called the look of power. The look of power is talking about racism and looks. The looks as in what looks different, and looks as in beauty. Okay, racism and beauty as in looks, and looks and racism and as in looks and beauty. I mean looks as in what is different. Meaning when people look at Black people, especially, for example, and especially Black people look the most different than everybody else. So based on that look, I look at Black people and they're the darkest people. Their hair is different. Okay, their features are so very distinct, and so there's a part of the mind that rings that as they're so different than me, they're inferior, or because of the distinctive differences, the big differences, it causes this kind of a somewhat inevitable process of competition. If I see you when you look different than me, I'm going to judge you as different. I can't see myself in you. So in some at some point, I'm going to start comparing myself with to you, and that comparison is going to lead to a competition, and that is a more masculine way, because we view life through the masculine and the feminine um, principle and perspectives. So when I look at black people, they're so damn different. And in a very masculine way, the competitiveness comes up because men and masculine energy is a very competitive kind of an energy. So um, that's one part of chapter two. And the next thing about the not chapter two, chapter three. Chapter three is about looks as in beauty, and how a more the masculine principle views. So it's like the masculine is looking at is judging things as masculine and feminine, and the perception of those things, and vice versa. So when the masculine aspect is viewing the people, there is this thing of beauty that comes up because the masculine energy represents so much um, what is visual and so physical. So when it starts to look at the people now, especially black people, they do not see beauty, because in this society, the beauty ideal is a more European kind of a beauty. So when people, or let's say white people, view black people, there's a level of distancing that happens, because when if people see other people as lacking beauty or not having whatever beauty standard that they believe should be, um, then there's this judgment that comes up, and this pulling away of this identifying with black people even more, because they look different, and we don't really care for the look, especially for the women in the group, especially for the black women. For black men, um, the look is more, it's different, because that's how the masculine energy views everything. The look is it's about the differences in the look, but then when we look out at black women now, black women are not seen as the women that represents beauty in the society, and so there's a judgment and the lack of respect, because people see beauty as value, as power, as respect. So whenever you have a group of people, if the women in that group are not seen as beautiful, then there is going to be this kind of a disdain towards that group, because people use beauty to place so much value on human life. So that's a part of chapter three. And also towards the ending of chapter three, I explained that this whole, as far as looks and beauty, and what I call the look of power, all human beings are espoused to, not just white people. So in other words, all people tend to value a more European kind of a beauty when it comes to race and beauty, and race in relation to beauty. We all have this kind of an inherent preference for a European kind of a beauty, a straighter nose, straighter hair, lighter skin. Not even so much the blue eyes and the blonde hair. That's like a thing of the past. The blue-eyed blonde hair thing it's a part of it, but it's a more retro perspective, like a more retroactive thing. people tend to it's still a European kind of a beauty, but it's a more like a Kardashian type or Italian nowadays. If you look on Instagram, it's still blonde hair and blue eye. That's still a part of it, but it's not the blonde hair blue eyed thing is not like the pinnacle anymore like it used to be. So I go on to explain that we all kind of have this preference for that kind of beauty. We all prefer straighter nose and lighter skin, especially for women, and longer hair. Those are the three main components of um, what we see as beauty. Green eyes and blue eyes is a part of it, but it's not a whole of it. Because if you look at somebody like Kim Kardashian, who's seen as one of the prettiest girls in the world, right? She don't have green eyes or blue eyes. Maybe she wear contact lenses sometimes, but most of the time when I see her, her eyes are like a light brown. So her facial features is what is people tend to respect and love about her, right? It's her. She has a very straight nose and an oval shaped face, and the big eyes, and that's what people love. So that's chapter 3. Chapter 4 is called Political Correctness is Born. I don't really want to show it to you because I wrote up a bunch of gibberish stuff all over my this book because this is my copybook, my proof. They said proof. They sent it to me. I bought it and they sent it to me, and I wrote up all kind of stuff all over it, all kind of corrections and stuff that I want to change. And so that's my that's my proof book. But chapter 4 is about political correctness. It's telling you how political correctness is dangerous and how we've practiced political correctness for so many decades. Maybe it's not even so many, but for many decades. And because of political correctness, it's caused this upwheeling of racism that we're looking at now. Because we didn't address it because we've been pressing it down for so long. We suppressed it for so long. Now it's really starting to come out because when you press down the truth of what you feel, it festers and it grows. And so the racism that we've been suppressing, it was there, it always been there, and it's still there. So that's chapter 2. It goes on to talk about the judicial system and as far as and police, not police officers so much, but the justice system and the PC-ness that goes on there, and are these people in the justice system, are they really unbiased, or they're just deliberately being PC? And that's a part of the last part of that chapter. And chapter 5, this is a clean page. Chapter 5 is called How to Create a Race War. I'm in that chapter. I'm talking about it's an extension of, in some ways, an extension of PC-ness. How PC-ness is leading to a race war, or could potentially create a race war. Okay, political correctness could turn and other things like affirmative action and the lies that we tell our children. There's so many factors that we don't believe is causing a race war, but is causing a race war. And this is one of the most important chapter because there are certain things that we think is not a factor or a problem with racism, but it really is. Okay, now chapter 6 is a continuation of chapter 5. It's called How to Really Create a Race War. And in this chapter, I go into some very deep psychological, seemingly small things, seemingly petty things that is causing racism to heighten and that could potentially lead to a race war. Things that are very sensitive to people, that people don't talk about, that hence root causes of racism nobody talks about. Because there's a bunch of things that we do that we see as small, we see as petty, little things that we we do on the internet, that it irks at people, that the hurt feeling level, people are hurt by these things. And the hurt, that's the crux of the chapter. The hurt, when people are hurt, hurt leads to hatred, okay? And hatred leads to hostility, okay? And then this is what causes the war. It creates the warmonger mentality, is what I speak about in that chapter. A warmonger mentality, there's a certain thing that we're doing, and certain little so-called little things that we're doing that is causing people to create this warmonger mentality, and we don't know that we're doing that, and that's why it's so dangerous. Okay, I talk about the Confederate flag and stuff like that. I talk about how to deal with Confederate flag issues. So many things to talk about in this chapter, but I'm going to go on to chapter 6. Chapter 6 is about cops, called All Cops Are Cops Racist. Okay, goes into the psychology of the police officer. And there's another psychology between us and police officer that we don't quite understand. Not just police officers, but people in positions of authority. Okay, and why these people tend to carry out certain racist act and get away with it, and we don't realize sometimes that they're doing certain racist things. And it talks about why certain people become police officers, and why certain police officers um, uh, end up doing some racist, violent behavior. But it also mentions that people do provoke the police. People in the Black community do provoke the police officers, and sometimes do act in certain ways that because they know that somehow the media are on their side, or what they believe that, to somehow get some kind of a power back. And this also, um, provokes the police officers, because they have feelings too, and they're human beings. And that whole police civilian Black community situation is it's a very dangerous. It's a danger zone. It's a danger zone for me, talking about the police. But I don't believe that every police officer is a bad person. And sometimes they really truly do mean well. But because they're human beings, and all human beings are racist, they can be provoked to the point where, to the point of wrath, to the point where they indulge in certain things that they themselves thought that they would not have indulged in. Okay, because they're human beings. And there's a psychology also of certain people in power, certain people in prestigious positions. They indulge in certain pathological behaviors under the guise of, in this, especially in this case of a police officer, under the guise of protect and serve. Okay, I enter the force to protect and serve, but it's really, I have an agenda against certain people that I could carry out and get away with it because I'm wearing this uniform. Chapter 8. Did I say that was chapter 6? Police officer, are the cops racist? The chapter about cops was chapter 7. I hope I didn't call it chapter 6 early. Chapter 8 is about Black Lives Matter, BLM. Goes in. I have a video about Black Lives Matter. I made a whole thing. It's like an animation about Black Lives Matter, and how that whole movement is dangerous towards Black people. It's dangerous for Black people, and how the psychology behind why people use terms like Black Lives Matter is causing black people, I mean, racial crimes and so-called hate crimes against black people to heighten, to get stronger, to be more, because there's a certain subliminal and subconscious message that the message of Black Lives Matter sent to the public. And when you send that message to the public, you think you're saying something. You're saying Black Lives Matter, but what they hear is Black Lives doesn't matter. Because if you believe that Black Lives Matter, you wouldn't need to tell me that. Okay, so the term Black Lives Matter it sends the opposite message to the public, and it's a dangerous thing. Okay, and then chapter 9 is the last chapter. It's called Solutions: How to Solve Racism. Solutions, and as far as I'm concerned, this book and this chapter is presenting the best material as far as how to solve racism in this society. Like I said before, one of the main premise of the book is that supports the idea that all human beings are racist, and if all human beings are racist, people people have to be honest about their racism. People have to heal. People have to first admit that I'm a racist. Come out and say I'm a racist. Um, and also, there's so many different techniques that I present in this book for people to lessen the feelings. It's like this part of the book is almost like a self-help thing. It's a way to release racist feelings from your body, racist thoughts, to change racist beliefs, okay? Train your mind to think different things. And also for people to like, especially for black people, to release certain beliefs about themselves, victimhood, that kind of stuff. And also for white people to learn how to heal themselves from this white entitlement, and also for white people to heal themselves from their white victimhood. So, but one of the most important parts of that chapter and of the book is the racist worksheet. The racist worksheet is the worksheet that you start off acknowledging and admitting to the racism. That is the first part of the worksheet, the admission stage. And the second part is when you go into what you feel when you see certain racist people. And this is how you start to heal your feelings towards your racist feelings. So you admit to it, you talk about what you experience, what you think. That's one of the first levels of it. The trigger level. I have it's called the three level emotional release stage. This I use this in my coaching in general, not just in regards to race. And then the first level is the trigger level, where you talk about what triggers you when you see certain races. The second level is the emotion level. You talk about the emotions you feel when you see certain races. The sensation level is about the sensation of the emotion that you feel when you see the races. And this is how you start to be in tune more what you're feeling emotionally, okay, as far as racism. And so this helps to lessen what you feel. And then lessens, as a result, it lessens the anxiety, it lessens the fear. And so as a result, it will lessen the hurt and the hostility. and more people do this, then we are looking at a society that is totally different as far as racism. You don't have an overnight cure for racism. You have to start somewhere, and this is where we start. And and pretty soon we're living in a different world. But this is probably, I believe, um, one of the best, if not the best, material out there as far as racism. This book. Um, what I need is just I need to promote myself. I don't have many people in my corner who knows how to promote or to market my how I can market myself. So, I need all of these things. I need help. And I think pretty soon, when I start to really when I integrate more and more of my trauma, because I'm getting better, and I'm starting to learn to open up to people about who I am and to develop stronger boundaries. And when I do that, I could really be my true self in front of the camera. Because if I'm holding back, if I don't want people to see my power, I'm always going to be holding myself back because I'm afraid that people are going to be intimidated by this side of me. So I'm getting there, guys. It scares me that we're approaching 2020 so fast, and my energy is telling me that there's major things that's going to happen there in 2020, and I'm scared of that. I really am scared of that, and I'm afraid that I'm running out of time. I might be wrong, but it just feels that way. And the more I feel that way, the more I feel like giving up. But I need help. I need people in my corner. I need my number one issue in my life is being my true, authentic, powerful self, intellectual self, spiritually intellectual in front of my family. That's the hardest thing I have to do in this life. And I've started it to some degree, but I have so much far to go, and I'm so afraid of it. I'm so afraid of it. This is the biggest fear I have, the hardest thing I have to do in my life. And this will forever be the hardest thing I ever have to do. Thank you for watching this video. Please order my book. It's on Amazon right now. I want to try to get back that link from Amazon. But if you type it in, "Are you racist? Root causes of racism nobody talks about," you're gonna see this, and that's gonna be me. So let me try to get the link again, and I put it under the video, and you could order it. Thank you.